And this film is exciting for me to be here and just offer a few words, because I do serve on the antitrust subcommittee. I have raised the film. Thank you to the director for the work on the film. I've raised it before in antitrust hearings, because I think it's a really important example of what we are talking about in terms of the problems with concentration and with cruel profiteering that is running rampant across our healthcare system. This anti-competitive behavior is happening at nonprofit hospitals across the country. I think we used to think this was just a problem with for-profit hospitals, nonprofits were okay, but actually what we're seeing more and more is that that is not the case. In my home state of Washington, the hospitals are in our home state of Washington, I guess, the hospitals are quite consolidated, and we just have a few health systems, and it has really had a huge impact in terms of access, for example, to reproductive care. We have seen the access to abortion go down because of these consolidations. And 40% of our hospital beds in Washington are controlled by religious organizations. So it is a really significant issue for us when we think about the whole hospital landscapes. And we saw the effects of some of this profiteering during COVID-19. That's when we first started to really dive into some of this work. Hospitals were not equipped with PPE. We saw the real effects of that on people. The resources to care for COVID patients were not there. And these hospitals were really set up for maximum profitability and for very high-cost procedures, which then led many of them to close down. And we've seen the hospital closures across the country really proliferating. I think with nonprofit hospitals, we used to see that they were centered on patient care and not on profits. And I think what you'll see in this film, and it really does it so beautifully by centering the lives of people. These are real stories. Policy is ultimately the collection of what happens to actual people. The advocates in this film that were fighting UPMC were not afraid to take on this very large entity. They were not afraid to tell their stories about what happened. They were not afraid to advocate collectively. They didn't get discouraged. And I'm an organizer, so that was my life for many decades before coming to Congress. And I think that they really show us why it's so important for all of us to focus and put patients at the center of all hospital actions, especially nonprofit hospitals. I think that by centering their own stories in this fight, these advocates won, and they won for the entire community. It was a hard-fought, very monumental win for the patients, for the community, and an example to inspire the rest of us across the country as we take on this challenge. Since I've gotten to Congress, I've been working, of course, on healthcare, and I'm very excited. Part of the reason I wanted to come tonight, just for a few minutes to talk to you, is because I'm very excited that I am going to be introducing a bipartisan bill on this topic. I really hope for your help. I want to get as many co-sponsors as possible. I think it's got some real potential, and basically it grants the FTC enforcement authority over nonprofit hospitals with respect to anti-competitive actions. So that will be coming very soon. It's a topic that we've raised in the antitrust subcommittee in a couple of different ways, but we'll have a chance to dive into it much more. We do already have a Republican co-sponsor for the bill, as I mentioned, and we hope that we can get traction in the Senate as well. And I think this is a really important time for us to focus on how we really regulate and enforce this industry, and how we, at the end of the day, put patients at the center. Healthcare should not, in my view, should not be a for-profit mission. We should not, let me put it this way, it should not be at the expense, those profits should not be at the expense of patient care. And so to me, if there are profits and it was happening at the same time that you actually had patients getting the care they need, that would be a whole different thing. But what we've seen is the absolute opposite. And while we thought that perhaps nonprofit hospitals were not in the same boat, I think what we're really finding increasingly is we've got a lot of vigilance here as well, and a role for Congress Congress, a role for regulatory agencies to ensure that we put patients above profits. So I want to thank the filmmaker. I want to thank CAP. I want to thank all of you. I hope we can take the lessons of this, the inspiration of the people who stood up to take on UPMC, and transfer it or expand it to help people across this country who deserve healthcare as a human right. So thank you all so much for being here, and thank you for allowing me to share a few words. Enjoy the film and the panel. Take care.